Hi, I'm Emma, a medical doctor, a survivor of domestic violence and narcissistic abuse. Today I will really dig into the topic of what happens to the narcissist as they age. And I will base this video on real data and research. So I want to find the truth. Just like many of you, I have been really angry, especially the last year, after the separation and when it really started to sink in that how used and manipulated I have been. And I feel that my narcissistic 21-year-long relationship aged me and left me like my finances decimated, my relationships hurt, and my emotions damaged. I had a lot of weight gain also at the end, and I felt this sense of injustice and a feeling that, is he getting away with just doing this to me? Will nothing happen to him? So I have been hoping that something will happen, like karma will hit him big time. And learning about the faith of the narcissistic person is, a harmless hobby that you can spend some time on when you get that feeling. Even though I think it is actually part of the healing that you feel that anger and it will eventually pass. But let's dig into this. So the video will be split into 5 parts. Firstly, I will talk about the development during the lifespan of the narcissistic person. What will it look like in the different parts of their life? Then I will talk about the body as they age. How does narcissism affect the body's aging processes in the biological age? And then third part, how does it affect appearance? Fourth part, I will share with you 4 real narcissists from history and their appearance as they aged. And fifthly, my analysis of all that we have gone through. So we will start with a theory of a man called Erik Erikson. He was a psychoanalyst and he came up with the theory of psychosocial development. Erik Erikson divided the lifespan into 8 phases of development. And we all knew that the narcissist's development was not normal, so they developed a disorder. And I think that when we really begin to see, what the interesting part for us in this theory is actually the last 3 stages. So the first 5 stages are dealing with childhood and adolescence. Stage number 6, young adulthood, so from 18 years up to 40. In a healthy person, this phase will be spent in developing meaningful relationships and emotional intimacy. And of course, there are many other things going on in life, but this is the major development stage according to Erik Erikson. And you need to develop this skill in this part of life. Otherwise, things will not go well for you. So the narcissistic person fails in developing meaningful relationships, and they fail to connect emotionally with others in this stage. Instead, they choose isolation, so emotional isolation. They don't build real relationships or real connections. They build relationships, if you can call them that are totally based on manipulation and the dominance of the narcissistic person. And there is no real connection. The 7th stage, from age 40 to about 65. Erikson calls this phase middle adulthood. In this stage, you are supposed to generate things, work, contribute to society, build and educate the next generation. If you have known a narcissist, you know that they are failing at this stage. So instead of developing themselves and rising to the challenge of life, they choose stagnation, self-absorption, and lack of purpose. So the 8th and final stage is a result of their failure in all the first 7 stages. So instead of like a healthy person who looks back at their life with fulfillment, wisdom, acceptance of life, and a feeling of integrity within themselves, the person who has failed to develop themselves in life, they will feel despair, emptiness, they will be unfulfilled, they will feel regret, bitterness, resentment, and fear of being irrelevant. So Sam Vaknin, I read this, or I have read parts of it, and he has a part in his book, Malignant Self Love, that is dedicated to the aging narcissist. Now I have to say something about this book. Can you guess how many pages there is? Well, I can't tell you either, because Sam Vaknin didn't put any page numbers in his book. I can't believe it. So it's really hard to find your way around in it. But I really respect his work, and I mean, he explains narcissistic personality disorder in a great way, and I just applaud anyone who is that interested in like getting the information out there and to dig into the deep questions. Well, it's a good but hard to read book. And he says that, well, the narcissist, as the ages, there is an increasing gap between their view of themselves, like the perfect image, the perfect persona, and how they are really, like in reality. There is an increasing gap. They want to see themselves as like a beautiful half god, but when they look in the mirror, that reality is becoming, well, harder to fake. And the same thing if they are a cerebral narcissist and take real pride in their intellect. Intellect does become less sharp in most as we age. And there is also like this lack of, like the failure in the personal life, all the relationships that they have failed in or destroyed, that are just like a car wreck behind them. It is harder to keep up the perfect image as they go through life and show their real colors in more and more instances. So when you look at a young person, like a 20-year-old or 30-year-old, they have a lot of potential, and even if they have not actualized it yet, you know that they have it in them. Even though they don't perhaps yet have an education, they are and have not found what they want to do in life, they might not have a work. It is not seen as a failure, they are still young. But when you have a person that is over 40 and still in that situation, that is weird. And then they get 50 and people start to question, like, even if they don't say it straight to the narcissist, they don't get the same admiration, and people don't cut them the same amount of slack, like their charm fails them. And Sam Vaknin writes that aging is a constant narcissistic injury. And the many narcissists choose either one of 4 approaches to this injury. Firstly, they can choose to disconnect more from reality and lose themselves in fantasy of being like their life having cosmic significance. Or they choose to isolate themselves, or they can choose the paranoid solution, or they can choose to be really miserable and like make a huge thing of their illnesses or their miseries and get attention from wallowing in that. There is a book from a palliative care nurse named Bronnie Ware, and the book is called The Top 5 Regrets After Dying. And so she worked at a palliative care unit, and she heard what patients who were approaching the end of their life, what their regrets were. And the top regrets were not being themselves, working too much, neglecting their relationships, and suppressing their emotions. I think that as the narcissist approaches end of life, there will be many, many regrets and many difficult feelings that they will not be equipped to deal with. A lot of anxiety. And there will be nothing there to comfort them. So I have seen people who are approaching the end of life, and sometimes there is a patient who don't have anyone there, like they are alone in the room, and perhaps they are even alone at the moment that they are dying. And I have been thinking about this myself. I'm still, not old yet, but how will that be, like the moment when you know that you are dying and perhaps there is something that you want, like you wish to say. And I'm thinking that, I will at least be able to take comfort in knowing that I did my best, and I will take comfort in the relationships that I have nourished, and like that I took the chances that I had and really immersed myself in life. I tried my best. I did many mistakes, but I tried to learn from them. And I am hoping that I will be one of the elderly that feels that satisfaction, or feels that life, like I lived my life the best I could, and I am satisfied with how I did it. I don't think that the narcissistic person will feel that, and that's a horrible way to go, especially if you are also lonely. And many narcissistic people are lonely as they are approaching the end of life, since they are not, they have not developed the skill of true connection. When they don't have anything to offer to draw people in, then they are alone. Now to the physical aging. We all age. And if you, in what rate you are aging, that is dependent on many factors. There are genetic factors, then there is healthy eating, exercise. If you're smoking, then of course your aging is increasing in speed. Alcohol also increases the rate of aging. Social, if you have a strong and good friend circle or family, that is a protective mechanism or a protective factor when it comes to developing illness. And then there are probably also factors that we don't yet know about. Now, if we look at the narcissistic person, which one of these factors would you assume could be affected by their personality disorder? Well, the relationship factor, like the healthy relationships that are the protective factor, they don't have those real relationships. And they have high levels of stress. So narcissists are high in anxiety, and when their ego is threatened, they get like a very intense feeling and fears of being worthless, and it evokes feelings of intense shame. And there was a study done by Reinhard and co-workers in 2011, and they looked at persons with narcissistic personality disorder, and they could see higher levels of cortisol, but they could only see this in the narcissistic males. That so in the males that was a clear increase in the cortisol levels. There was also another study done where they could show in narcissistic personality disorder an increase in blood pressure when the narcissistic person was thinking about something stressful. So they were more sensitive to thinking about stressful things compared with a normal and healthy person. They did not have the same increase in blood pressure. Narcissists are also like a little later in life when they feel that like when the image is crumbling a bit, or after they have failed in their relationships or their marriages or their career, they are more prone to using substances or alcohol to calm themselves down. That will, of course, increase their rate of aging. And when it comes to healthy eating and exercise, that is, of course, dependent on the narcissistic person. Some of them don't care and don't take care of themselves. Some of them put in a lot of effort into eating and exercising, and perhaps there is even a connection, like they might develop some eating disorder. And that, of course, is not healthy, and that is actually dangerous for the body and ages it more quickly if you are having a true eating disorder like anorexia. I have noticed, this is from my own experience, that from observing people with personality disorder in my surroundings, that when someone else is taking care of taking care of them, taking care of food, and all the stuff that is related to life, then the narcissist will immerse themselves in exercising and eating good and feeling a bit smug that they are like doing this the right way, and that their slave is not succeeding in the perfect exercise and eating regime. But as soon as there is a stressor, then they stop this healthy regime and go into full fear and panic mode. And they can even neglect to take their medication during those periods, even if there is important medication. And this is from my own experience. Let me know below in the comments if you have seen this as well. I think that the narcissists definitely have an increased risk of aging, aging more quickly. They do have an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, that is stroke and heart problems. And they also have been shown to have an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. And perhaps there are more risks, perhaps they have higher risks in other areas, but I have to tell you to disappoint you and say that the researchers are not as passionate about narcissism as we are. So if when I do the search on for the peer-reviewed articles, then there is a little the data where they're looking specifically into narcissism. That is very few studies done to look at narcissism and its connection to health. I would love to see a study when they see if the narcissists go bald in higher rates. That's my secret wish. So I have not let go of that. I haven't let go of the anger yet, as you can hear. Now to appearance, and here there are no studies, but since it was shown that they have higher levels of cortisol and stress hormones, I can link that knowledge with other studies that show that cortisol does increase the rate that the hair goes gray, and it also ages the skin more quicker. So like when the skin ages, then you do look older. Of course, sun is also a factor here, so that also like has an impact on how the skin is aging. But stress, definitely. Now we will go and look at some real narcissists. And I have chosen to look at the 20th century dictators because they are not alive. And I don't have to feel bad that I'm like making fun of them. And also they didn't have the filters for the images that we have now. So let's start with Joseph Stalin, our first star. Here you see him at the year 1902. He's 23 years old. I think he's quite handsome. He might fit into a Hollywood movie, actually. Now, Joseph Stalin was a dictator in Soviet Union and definitely narcissistic. He had such like horrible rage attacks that when he died from a stroke at age 74, no one dared go into his room when he didn't come out in the morning in his usual time. So he died there alone and perhaps in agony. Those who worked for him were so scared of disturbing him. But here you see a picture of him at 56 years of age. He definitely looks old, not very sympathetic. Now, Joseph Stalin was a smoker, and he also was quite sedentary. But we can at least say that he didn't age well. We can compare it to Hugh Jackman, 56 years of age at this picture. And of course, he's a Hollywood actor, so he probably does a lot of exercise to stay in shape. But just for a comparison, like this is how good aging would look, and Joseph Stalin will be our example for the bad aging person. This is Hitler, 56 years of age. I think it's the last picture before he committed suicide. He, of course, was a narcissist. He had a messiah complex, or he saw himself as the savior. He scapegoated the whole Jewish community and committed horrible atrocities. He pitted like the persons who were under him working, he pitted them against each other, and when the war luck turned for him, when his enemies were closing in, he became paranoid, bitter. He blamed the German people for failing him and for not being worthy of him. So he actually wanted the whole of Germany to go down with him. And he gave out orders to destroy different towns. And he told even the boy soldiers, like, you need to fight to the end. So a very bad way to end life. Here's a picture of him in his early 20s. So you can't see then how he would become just 36 years after this. Now, I will talk about Hermann Göring. He was a second in command under Hitler, and like going through his life story and seeing documentaries about him, I think he was definitely a narcissist. In his youth, he was a flyer ace. So in the First World War, he was famous for being a real good pilot. See, so here's a picture of him in his youth. And here's a picture of him, 46 years old. 46. If I didn't know that age, I would assume that he is actually closer to 60. Now, Hermann Göring, he has a quite interesting life story. Like, it's very typical of the narcissist. Well, he was famous for his flying skills. Then he got involved in the Nazi party. But, and they tried to take power. The Nazis tried to take power a few years before they succeeded. And this was called the beer cellar coup. And he was actually injured during this. And he had to flee Germany, and he was exiled for a few years. And during that period, he really deteriorated. He didn't work. He started to take morphine for the pain in his legs. And he married a Swedish woman. And he was actually admitted to a mental hospital because of his morphine addiction and because he was so violent. But he was then saved from his misery by the Nazi party, and well, they called for amnesty for the person who had been involved in this coup, and he could then return to Germany, and then he became the second in command. And during this time, he didn't use morphine, or at least not a lot of it, so it didn't affect him. And he did have some success early in the war. But later, when the luck turned and then Hitler started to blame him, then he turned to morphine to comfort himself. But you can see that, he was also a smoker. But even with the smoking, he has really aged bad. And we can see here a picture of Matt Damon at 46 years old. He also smokes, actually, at least sometimes. François Duvalier, also called Papa Doc, he was the dictator of Haiti. And he was a doctor. You can see a picture of him here when he became the president at 50 years of age. Now we will see a change in just 11 years. This is him 11 years later, so age 61. That is bad aging. He had diabetes and heart disease, and he died at age 64 from his illnesses, leaving the power of the country to his son. So these are at least 4 examples of people from history that did have narcissistic personality disorder. Some of them really aged poorly. Some of them, well, at least they did not age well. So they will age. The narcissistic person that you're thinking about, they will age, and perhaps it will go quickly. It is depending on the life circumstances and how long they manage to ward off all that stress and anxiety that they are constantly working on putting on hold. And they are doing that through finding different targets to pour all their negativity into, and to have those people take care of them. When they're not able to do that, it is like a wall that has built up with all this negativity, feelings, failure that just comes rushing down, and they don't deal with that very good. Many of them develop substance use, or they become addicted to different things. So I think that even if it doesn't happen right now, eventually things will not end well for the narcissistic person. But I also think that if you were to see that in the future, I have heard women who have seen, like they wished for revenge, they wished to see the abuser like lowered, but when they did actually see that caused a tremendous feeling of pity that they did not want, and also a feeling of like he's no longer the person who tormented me, and sadness. So I think that you can indulge a bit in all the misery that are awaiting them, and try to refocus on yourself. You have something like an ability that the narcissistic person never had and probably will not develop. When you were with the narcissist, you were both losing, and you were losing perhaps a bit more because you were put under tremendous stress during this period, and this person tried to push you down and like have you cut off different parts of yourself. But you do have the ability to grow and develop, and you do have the ability to find real joy and satisfaction and real relationships. You do have the ability to learn from the whole experience. The narcissist does not have that. They don't learn. They don't evolve. When they end their life, it is like they have never lived it, because they didn't live it. They were never really as themselves, as their true selves. They were not engaged in the world. They never connected. They never loved. They never had real peace or joy. And aging persons, they can be beautiful. Both women and men, they can really have this deep wisdom and joy and peace around them, and like the acceptance for themselves and how life is, and also the curiosity. Like, some elderly people, when they have time to develop that side, they really get curious and want to, like, they are happy when they see little kids, and they find joy in life, like in the little things. And the narcissist will not be able to do that. Like they are missing life. And I don't know if they will ever have that realization, but they are missing something really big. Like if they lose their hair or their charm or their beauty, yeah, they will lose that, but they will lose something more important, and that is like all that life is about. But that thing is there for you, and it's there for you every day. So have a look around and see how much you do have. We tend to focus on what they took. But I know for myself, like I'm in hiding, yes. And there are many difficulties in my life, but there are many, many joys. And let's start with, like, I'm living in a country who has peace. I have a home. I have an apartment. I have my own bedroom actually now. So I don't have to share with one of the kids. I have the ability to see, to read, to do this video. And there are so many everyday blessings that we tend to forget about. Don't let those joyous things be robbed by obsessing too much for too long about this person. It's a phase, and it will pass, and you will take the lessons with you. And you are already winning. I would love to hear your comments. Subscribe if you want more of my content. I'm Emma, holding up a light over the bridge. Remember, there is always a way out. There is always a way forward. Please be safe, take care, and have a great day.